पतितमस्तु मा विद्विषावहैः। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Yesterday we saw one of the values as Atma Vidya. That means mastery over mind. Very deliberately we haven't used the word controlling the mind. Why? Because as I told you, that if I ask you what is going to be your thought 5 minutes from now, do you know it? No. Since you don't know it, how are you going to control rest of your thoughts for rest of your life? It's impossible. Right? So that's why we call it as mastery of mind. And mastery of mind is what? It is not elimination of emotions. Mind is programmed to have range of emotions. That is natural program. That is Ishvara there. Right? The only thing that we can do is what? Manage those emotions through understanding. Okay? So yesterday what we did is we took example of one emotion, which is fear, and then we saw which part is part of the natural program which you cannot eliminate, which is the instinctual fear, which actually gives you survival instinct and what enables you to what? Protect yourself. The other one is a psychological fear, which is fear of things which don't exist. That is a problem. Because that's what you have created as existent, which actually do not exist. That is something that you can manage. How? First understand that this fear belongs to something which does not have a correspondent reality outside. That is the first understanding. Otherwise, how will you eliminate? Right? So therefore, you have to learn to manage emotions. Okay? Now, the next value is, now I want you to chant this. These are beautiful mantras that you can chant to yourself and remind yourself of some of these values that you have to live by. So the first one I want you to chant, and you had already chanted, right? We'll chant it once again. Amanitvam adam vitvam. Ahimsa kshanti rajavam.
Ahimsa kshanti rajavam.
Acharyopasanam shaucham.
Acharyopasanam shaucham.
Sthairyam-atma vinigraha.
Sthairyam-atma vinigraha.
The next one. These are all the ones that we have seen. How many there are? Amanitvam, Adampitvam, Ahimsa, Kshantihi, Arjavam, Acharyopasanam, Shaucham, Sthairyam, Atma, Vinigraha. So how many values we have seen so far? 9. Okay. So we have 11 more to go. That makes it 20 values. Indriyartheshu Vairagyam. Okay. So therefore, this also we will chant and then I will explain the meaning. Indriyartheshu Vairagyam.
Indriyartheshu vairagyam.
Anahankara evacha.
Ahankara evacha.
Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanudarshanam.
Janma mrityu jara.
Sorry, I didn't want to break it because it's actually one word. It's presented as one word. So one word you can't say Ra and afterwards Ma. You have to pronounce it as Ram. But here, let's break it. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanudarshanam. Very good. Okay. Now, indriyartheshu vairagyam. Okay. So this is something, as I told you, this whole indriya are your senses. Okay? And here, Vairagyam is again, as I explained in a few classes earlier, Vairagyam is generally portrayed as disinterest, not indulging, So what here, as I told you, that this root meaning of this Vairagya, Viraga, is coming from Ranj. Ranj is to color. Okay? And this color, to this you add a pratyaya which makes it into an abstract noun, and it becomes, Ranj becomes Raga. Right? And then V is a prefix. And V is Vigataha Ragaha Yasmat. The one who does not have the color. This is the actual meaning. Okay? So now, the color that we add to the objects, what does it do? Makes us go after them. Right? So therefore, if I give right value to every object, we have a tendency to what? Either give more value or give less value. Right? So therefore, anything, okay, we have seen many times, generally there are sayings, and then everybody loves those sayings, right? I mean, you have all these internet, and nowadays everybody sends you all kinds of things, and this is something that even before internet age you can hear, that what power corrupts and absolute power absolutely corrupts, right? So therefore, is it true? Not necessarily, right? So either you chase power, this is our mind. Either we are totally crazy about power and do anything to get ahead in life and to get power, or we condemn power and say, oh, power is useless because power corrupts. Both are what? Two extremes. There is no reality there. Right? One is, power will give me everything that I am looking for, therefore I chase power. Power can give me what? Some amount of what? Capacity to transform things. True. It also gives me a sense of nourishment. True. But if you think that it is now I'm going to become the king through power, because I have 4 or 5 people who are so afraid of me that they will do what I tell them to do, and I think what? I'm powerful. And that gives me a sense of what? Oh, I can get things done.
There is control over transformation. You don't look at controlling people.
So therefore, what happens is, it gives you an illusion. Power gives you what? An illusion of control. Because those 4 or 5 people who are under you, you can tell them, do this, and they will do it. Right? But if the power really gave you all the control, then what? Find me one person, who do you think is the most powerful person on this earth today? I have different answers. I mean, I get different answers when I ask this question.
Yourself.
Oh, come on. Not this so-called self that Vedanta talks about, but me, the person.
The head of ISIS.
Amazing. I'm so happy. Because generally people say, oh, exactly. The common answer people give me is Obama, the President of United States, right? And immediately, as Namita says, what power does he have really? This ISIS can what?
Destroy.
Absolutely. So therefore, the power gives you illusion of control. But what is the reality? You really don't have that much control. But there is an illusion of control. Why? Because there are some people in White House and in his whatever party who would follow what he does. So there is what? It's not totally not true. So there are few people who follow him. So that's why what do you feel? Powerful. Because those people do what you tell them to do. But you still never can have total power because there is always somebody out there who can what defy you like this. Right? So therefore, this illusion of greatness through power.
In fact, the most powerful of people who think they have control have the maximum fear.
Yeah, exactly.
This is actually the least control.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you feel that you want to control, when actually you don't have control, what is the result is fear. Okay? So therefore, either we chase power thinking that it will give me all this control that I'm looking for, okay? Or we say power will corrupt. Is it true? Not necessarily. Right? So therefore, there have been very enlightened leaders who have used power responsibly to transform societies. When I was, there was a leader in South Korea. I think maybe Lee Kuan Yew, but he is a very authoritarian. But there is he was called President Park. And South Korea, after Second World War, was nothing. And now its economy is at par with Japan or even better. And a lot of them tell me that this President Park had a lot to do with it. Very quietly he worked.
Ex-army man, he was ex-general.
He was ex-general. Okay? And he transformed. Today South Korea is what? One of the leading economies. Okay? So through power you can actually get many things done. So therefore, power per se, can you say it's good or bad?
Depends on the use.
Exactly. So our human mind is either you chase power thinking that it's just something which is going to enable you to control everything, which is a wrong value that I give to the power. And otherwise I say power is bad because it corrupts. This is again what? Giving less value to power. When I give power the due value and I say actually it's a tool. It depends on how I use it. You are accurate. This is called Vairagya. Neither more value nor less value. The exact value that belongs to power. Similarly, any object in this world will lose its capacity to hold you if you give it what? The right value. Most of our suffering is what? Either we give more value and we go after it, or we give less value and we try to run away from it. In both, there is no reality. Everything has its own place. And when you can discern its own place accurately, then your capacity to deal with it becomes what? Much easier. It's much easier to deal with it. Okay? So this is the meaning of Vairagyam. Vairagyam is, our teacher used to give a nice example. Right? Now, when you are a little child and you are playing this marbles, right? Now another friend of yours comes and takes away those marbles, and what happens? You start crying. Because for you, marble is so important, and if somebody, your friend comes and takes it away, you cannot handle it. So you start crying. As an adult, do you need to keep away from the marbles, saying that, oh, marble is something which is not the cause of happiness? When your child wants to play with this marble, you yourself become an adult. And when your child wants to play with marble, will you say, no, I want to have vairagya, dispassion towards marble? No. You will engage, right? But if somebody comes and takes, if your child comes and takes away your marble, will you start crying? No. Neither you need to go after marble, nor you need to stay away from the marble. But marble is what? Just a game, and you play it. That is called vairagya. Right? So that is, therefore, you don't need to, what? Stay away from things. And this is something which is represented in our tradition. How is Lord Krishna depicted?
Playfully.
Playful. He was born as a king. He did not say, oh, I have to renounce my kingdom. He was living, but he had a high sense of dharma. Today after the class, I loved it because Shona came and told me that if you really understand dharma as the manifestation of Ishvara, what choice do you have but to align yourself with it? That was a beautiful statement. I loved it. Okay? So therefore, everything that you are given in this universe, what? Has its own value. Because everything we saw is what? Manifestation of Ishvara. The problem comes with our giving more or less value. When you remove that, you can have proper relationship with every object. Neither more nor less. Then you are free with reference to that object. Now Krishna enjoyed what? He was playing flute. He was having a good time. It's not like, oh, I have to be dispassionate, I have to run away from the world. Flute will make me engaged in the world. No. He was wearing beautiful clothes. There was no problem. He was playful, cheerful, playing games with all his what? All those his friends. Mischievous, light, joyful, but full of wisdom, very correct sense of dharma, reveling in knowledge. This is the person. This is really the wise person. Okay? And therefore, Indriya, Vairagya, what does it mean? It means that if you haven't given right value to objects, and if you give more value than what it has, your whole life will go in what? Chasing them. When your whole life goes in chasing them, what is wrong? What is wrong?
You miss beauty.
Exactly, you miss what?
Identity of
For the individual.
Exactly. Then you miss what? Because the inputs that Indriya can bring is what? Infinite. There is never an end.
Chasing it and then holding on to it.
And then holding on to it. Becomes a lifetime project. Because there is never an end. Take any given thing. There is never an end. So therefore, this is what the analogy is given in Kathopanishad. In Kathopanishad, it is said that you come on this earth with a chariot. What is a chariot? Your body. And that chariot has 5 horses. What are those horses?
5 senses.
5 senses. And then there is a person who drives the chariot, which is what? Your buddhi, your intellect. And then there is a chariot owner who is given these 3 to go to the destination, Jiva. Now, if the buddhi has no idea where to go, what is the final destination, what is the objective, what will happen? There is no destination to go because what? You have no idea. If you have no idea, the charioteer has no idea what is the end, what will run the show? Horses. One horse feels like going there, it will go there. The next horse will have some other fancy and it will go there. The third horse will have another fancy and it will go there. And one day, what will happen?
They'll all run amok.
They'll run amok. They'll run amok and one day the whole thing will collapse and it's gone. So, Indriyas themselves, please understand, are not bad. 5 senses that are given to you are very essential. Imagine a life without one sense organ. What? Without eyes, if you are blind, if you are born blind. What a handicap. If you are born deaf, if you are born dumb, if you can't smell, if you can't taste. Each sense organ is intelligent. Please understand, don't call them, sensory pleasures. Actually, they are useful. Where is the problem? If you don't know how to use them wisely, then what happens? They can run the show. Because anything that you see, anything that you read, now when you go back, right? You go back to whichever destination you are going back, and if you are taking a flight, there is an in-flight magazine. And that in-flight magazine already has, every time they will show you all these beautiful places that you can go to and how that airline will take you there. So then what? All these ideas for your next vacation. And then next vacation. Then next time you take the flight, another idea. And how long? Lifetime. It goes on and on and on. Right? So therefore, vacation per se is not bad. Eyes reading is not a problem. Right? But you have to be very careful as to what do you want in life. If you know where to go, does it mean that you will not treat those senses at all? If you will not let them engage in anything at all, does it mean that? No. You are relaxed. This much, but you are able to say this much and what? No more. Because when there is no end, you lose sight of what you have come for. Right? This constant gratification of senses, constantly seeking some pleasurable experiences, leads you to rut. Because what? By the time one is over, you want more, and then you want more, and then you want different types of pleasure. And then that never ends. And that's a waste of human birth. Okay? So therefore, certain amount of mastery over indriyas is necessary. Otherwise we become experience hunters. This experience, now let's go for something else. Then that's over, let's go for something else.
So it's all about striking a balance.
Exactly. Have a right perspective. That right perspective automatically would lead to balance.
Drop the pressure that you already had.
Wonderful. Many times, this is a very, very good thing, that that the teacher need not give you a very big lecture on, you have to stay away from this and stay away from that. That's all useless. As Vimal says, as you begin to see value of things accurately, many of the things will automatically drop. Automatically drop. Many times, people tell me all the time, and in fact, I will tell you, people tell me all the time that some very close friends they had, but once their interest changes, what happens? Not because you want to stay away from those friends, but what? The very fact that you have very different interest and you have somebody else who has a very different interest, there is a natural distance that takes place. I'll just tell you a light story, it's not to be taken very seriously. So, since I lived abroad for almost 30 years, I had lost connection because, for that little time that I had when I came back to India, I would go to see my teacher and I would learn more. So I was actually not keeping in touch with anybody. I mean, hardly anybody, right? So when I moved to Bombay, I wanted to look up some friends of mine that we were in school together or whatever. And I had no, I didn't, because many of them were married and I don't know where they live. And I didn't have their phone numbers or anything. But some people's homes I remembered a little bit. So I decided to walk up to those homes and to find out where that person is, because somebody is in that home. So through that method, I was able to trace 2 or 3 friends. And the first day that we met, so everybody was so happy because we were seeing each other after like 30 years and this and that, and they were thrilled and I was thrilled. And then they said, oh, we'll certainly be in touch. Nobody called me again. What? Because by then, what happened? They had a completely different life. They had their kids, they had their own whatever, and I was figuring what? Nowhere in their scheme of things. Right? So this is how, what is it that you're interested in? What happens? You naturally gravitate towards people with similar interest. And the other things automatically drop from your agenda. It's effortless. The other way also, it can happen. Because when I was so interested in Vedanta, when I came to Bombay, they figured nowhere in my scheme of things. I was thinking, initially I was saying, my God, nobody's calling me. Then I said, but actually I didn't call them for all these 30 years. They also didn't figure anywhere in my scheme of things. So that means there is always, the minute you find what more and more meaningful things in your life, automatically what happens? Some of the other things will naturally drop. Nobody needs to give you, if I keep on giving you a lecture, drop that, drop that, drop that. It is useless. As long as you have value for it, you will not drop it. But if you yourself recognize that it has no value, what will happen? It will drop automatically. So therefore, Vedanta teacher doesn't have to give you an advice of what dropping things. It has to make you see the right value. When you see the right value, what will happen? Many things will automatically drop in your life. This is the trick. Right? So this is what we call Indriyartheshu Vairagya. 5 senses are given to you, they are useful, they do their job, you don't need to stay away from things, but you have to learn to use them wisely. Right? Indriyartheshu Vairagyam Anahankara. This meaning of Anahankara is in the sense of what? Pride. Ahankara here in this particular verse is in the sense of pride. And Anahankara is
Absence of pride.
absence of pride. So, how do you become a person who has pride, who is arrogant?
Person who is not able to see the right value for himself or the other person.
Sometimes that's a very...
When you're successful,
Exactly.
Has a sense of achievement.
Exactly. When you are successful, when you have a sense of achievement, if you're not careful, what will happen? Along with that will come what? Certain sense of pride. Okay? There was a character who was portrayed in Chandogya Upanishad. As I told you in the morning, there was this boy. This boy, he went to Gurukulam to study when he was 11 or 12 years old. His name was Shwetaketu. And he was by far the brightest kid in that Gurukulam. He was very good at every subject. He was always coming first. He was pet of his teacher because he was so bright. Now when this boy comes home, he has this sense of pride. The father begins to see, my son thinks no end of himself. And then he wanted to make him wise. He asked his son, hey, did you ask your teacher for that knowledge, knowing which everything is as well known? The son said, what? What are you talking about? There is no such knowledge, knowing which everything is as well known. If I know mathematics, I only know mathematics. I don't know biology. If I know economics, I don't know arts. There is no such knowledge, knowing which everything is as well known. The father said, this is where the father says, but there is one knowledge, knowing which everything is as well known. What? First he said there is no such knowledge, he was very arrogant. Then, because he was a little wise, he asked his father, is there a knowledge like that? If there is such knowledge, please teach me. And this is where the father teaches him what? Vacha Rambhanam Vikaro Namadheyam Mrittika Ityeva Satyam. He gives a possibility. He says that there can be one knowledge, knowing which everything is as well known. Instead of this steel, he gives an example of a pot. He says that this pot if I present many different things made up of clay, you may not know what there are thousands of things. You may not know even some names and you may know some names. Because different shapes, you may not even know the names of those shapes. So that way you can't know everything. And somebody uses one's creativity and after 10 years creates a totally new form which was not even existent. So that way you cannot know everything. But if all of those objects are made up of one thing, which is what in this case, clay, by knowing clay, you can know what? The entire, all the objects belonging to the clay world. Right? The shapes will have different names, different forms, different names, but the substance is what? Only one, clay. That's when all his ego dropped and then he wanted to know more. He wanted to know more because he recognized he had not even thought about that. What arrogance? Where is this arrogance coming from? This little knowledge that we have and we think we know a lot. What is it? Our teacher used to say, every knowledge that you have is still one more question. Rose is red. Why is it red? I don't know. Why some atoms get together and make it into rose and the other atoms get together and make it into what? Jasmine. I don't know. Why this fragrance belongs only to rose and that fragrance belongs only to jasmine? I don't know. We have so many I don't knows and so little I know. Where is the pride? What is the place of pride? The other way that you can think about it is our teacher used to say, right? This pride also comes from sense of ownership. You are proud because, let's say, you have an apartment in some cool place in Delhi or in Bombay or whatever, right? So I overheard some conversation at lunchtime and everybody has heard that South Bombay is the address.
Unless you live in Jalki Kuti.
Okay, so then imagine you live in South Bombay. What is the best address in South Bombay?
Darshan.
Darshan. Okay, Nepean Road, well. Okay, Nepean Road or Malabar Hill is the best location. You own an apartment, right? And you own an apartment there and you feel what? Proud. I live, not somebody here, but generally this is how human mind is. Right? Our teacher used to say, in this apartment where you live, you think that you own this apartment and how much did you pay for this apartment? Crores, let's say. Crores, multiple crores. Now, what have you paid for? The floor of your apartment is a ceiling of somebody else's apartment down below. Your ceiling is floor of someone else. Your left wall is right, other guy's right wall. Your right wall is somebody else's left wall. What do you own in this?
The space.
Can space be owned? No. Can you say this belongs to me, this space? Can you have an ownership of space? No. Can you say that you own the land? You made the land on which this building is built. It came given. have no ownership. Ownership is in the head. In reality, there is only trusteeship, no ownership. Because in order to really own it, you should have made the land. You should own the space. You should own what? All the walls. But it's all just what?
Notional.
Notional. But that notion is not totally wrong either, right? Because not somebody can go and start living there. That's why it is trusteeship. You have been entrusted with what? When you come to this earth, with what? Certain amount of wealth, certain amount of comfort, certain amount of intelligence, certain amount of skills. You don't own anything. This body itself, who all will claim ownership to this body? The father will say, I have a part in this body. The mother will say what? I have a bigger part in this body. Your children will say what? They will claim this body. Your spouse.
In fact, the latter way, the biggest of apartments, the maid spends more time, uses the house more than the owners.
Okay? So therefore, what is everything that is given to us is just what we are trustees. And if you are a trustee, then what do you need to do? Do you have pride or you have responsibility? Sense of responsibility. You have been given all this. You actually don't own anything. And for how long you have been given trusteeship of all these that you have accumulated? The countless flow of time. For how long? 100 years. And what is that 100 years? It's minuscule in the flow of time. What are you proud about?
When you leave the world, what happens to the world?
Exactly. That's why you come with certain sense of trusteeship, and then when you leave, again what? If you really owned it, you should be able to take it with you. Well, do you take 1 penny with you? You don't.
People would take if they could.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't even take your body with you. What do you take?
Exactly.
Even children are in trusteeship. Even your children are in trusteeship. Children which you have.
Yeah.
Again, this is your life.
Exactly. If you yourself, your body is something which is what you don't own, let alone the bodies of other people. Who do you own? You don't own anything. You are just a trustee. Okay? When you understand this reality intimately, pride, what does it do? Naturally goes away. Nobody needs to tell you, oh, you should not be proud and you should not be this and you should not be that. Hey, where the pride itself is what? It's based on non-understanding of things. When you understand things, it automatically drops. Okay? So therefore, anahankara. The only thing which actually enables you to live like this is to see that I have no ownership but I have trusteeship. Pride can only be about things that you own. Ownership is an illusion. Okay? Then, anahankara evacha janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshano darshanam. Okay. So therefore, this whole thing, as I told you, that these are all the values which are meant for preparing you for knowledge. Right? Because whole Bhagavad Gita, the context is that you need to have this knowledge. But in order to go for this knowledge, you need to understand the inherent limitation of being what? An individual. Because that, your identity as an individual involves what? A mix-up.
The sense of life.
Your sense of I is mixed up. Now, somebody asks, so what? Let it be mixed up. What do I care? In that mix-up, it means that if this mix-up is not undone, what will happen? That Karana Sharira, which has all the accounts, will bring about what? Another body. When that body comes onto this earth, as I told you, how does it come? Crying. The baby comes out crying because what? From this comfort of a womb, the baby comes into this vast universe. Not knowing. And that baby in that vast universe is not equipped to help oneself. It's totally dependent. It's not able to what? Eat. It's not able to perform all the daily functions. Mother has to clean up. It's not able to speak, to even say what it wants. Then what do? A slight discomfort. How do they communicate? They start crying. Okay. You come as a totally helpless person in this vast universe, not equipped to what? Manage yourself. You're constantly relying on other people to manage you. So people who are managing you become what? Your gods. Because for you, your whole survival depends upon how well they look after you. Now, those people who are looking after you, they are all enlightened human beings? No. They have their own life and their own fancies and their own whatever values or whatever. Sometimes they are there for you, sometimes they leave you to nannies. Sometimes when you really want something, they don't give you. What you don't want to do, they keep on forcing you to do. All this is a confusion for a child. Okay. But the child is not able to verbalize, the child is even not able to analyze. What does the child do? It cries, and then when the child cries, the parents say, good children don't cry. Even that is not allowed. And even that is labeled as not good. You have to be strong. That means again whole denial of emotion starts. You can't show your fears, you can't show your sadness, you can't show what, you can't cry. All this inevitably, please understand, there is no child in this universe who grows up without pain. There is no human being like that. is painful. Every pain of the child, as I told you, is what? Shoved in the unconscious, unaddressed, unrecognized. Okay? And as the life unfolds, it starts to what? Slowly, slowly, slowly come out in all distortions. All distorted manner. The lack of love that I feel as a child is transferred to what?
An inability to give love.
Exactly. An inability to give love to others, because what I really needed the most, it was not given to me. Or there is another thing which you become very needy and you seek love, and you seek love in the way that what? Nobody can give. So every relationship leaves you what? Dissatisfied. So that means there is pain. Along with Janma and childhood, all these issues to one degree or the other, nobody escapes. No human being, any human being who's an honest human being will say this is true. One thing or the other. You can't avoid that pain. Because it's impossible that every need of yours is met when you are a child. So you carry that pain forward. Then, while you are living this life, what? Mortality is around the corner. Another source of fear. I remember very well when I was a child, I used to love my father. I used to just adore him. And always there would be this fear, what? Oh my God, the minute I discovered that there is a possibility of death, then what? Fear starts. Oh my God, what if I lose him one day? Okay, that is also unavoidable. Janma, Mrityu. And not only Mrityu of people who you love, but your own. That you will disappear from this earth itself is what? Once Yudhishthira was asked this question, he says, what is the biggest wonder in this world? He says that everybody knows that what? My life is 100 to maximum what? 100 years. But everybody lives as though what?
They're going to live forever.
They're going to live forever. This is the biggest wonder. We can't handle it. We are in denial. There's a denial. That's why anytime there is anything, I remember when I was in school and one of my very good friends, father passed away. I didn't know how to face her because I didn't know what I would tell her. I was so afraid. We don't know how to handle it. Okay? Because there is this whole thing of mortality. Janma, the minute you come into this life, you can't avoid Janma. Along with Janma, childhood and its pain, fear of mortality. By the time you become a little adult, what happens? You start learning about death, and that causes fear. Janma, Mrityu, Jara. Then before the death comes what? The old age. By the time you are in your 40s and 50s, so much of my friend's time goes in what? Taking care of elderly. Because in India, at least, they are still at home. They are not sent out to some old age they are not institutionalized. So therefore, your time goes in, and it's painful to see what all the capacities are deteriorating. It's painful. Walking becomes a struggle. You have to take more and more medicines to keep the balances. All the eyes become less. Old age, you can't avoid. Okay? Jara Vyadhi. In between, before the old age comes, diseases, afflictions. Physical afflictions and mental afflictions. The teenager, when you grow up and you're in college, you want to change the world. You have all these dreams. By the time you become middle-aged, you said, I can't even change one person in my life, let alone the world. Okay, so therefore, afflictions start. So therefore, a life of becoming is inherently what? Limited. Because it is, along with life of becoming comes what? Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. Dukkha, Dosha, Nudarshana. Right? So therefore, the freedom that we are seeking is a very fundamental freedom. If in this lifetime you have figured out the true nature of yourself, are you stuck with this body or not? Till the time that this body drops, you are still stuck with it, right? Nobody can totally get rid of this body till the time that the death comes. But because that mix-up is undone, what happens? You can't give up the limitation of the body, but what happens? You lose the sense of fear because that limitation belongs to not I, but to the instrument. Instrument is limited. True. Nobody is denying it. And you are given this instrument to accomplish a few things in life, and you do it well. I will end by saying that my teacher, I told you yesterday the story that in Bangkok he was not well, so we spent days with him. And he was absolutely clear, crystal clear. He says, till the time that I can use this body to accomplish what I want to do, I'm happy to have this body. What he wanted to do with this body? Impart the knowledge, help others. The minute this body does not allow me to do what I want to do, I have no urge to hold on to it. Because what? It has served its purpose. The body is for you, you are not for the body. That is the difference between what? A person who is not wise and the person who is wise. You don't have to deny the body. Body is an instrument through which you can accomplish things. Mind is an instrument through which you can accomplish things. You don't need to deny them. They become what? Your embellishments and not liabilities. They become assets and not liabilities. But with the mix-up, if you mix up your I in it, then it becomes what? A liability. It becomes a problem because what? Nobody can accept an I which is so imperfect. So therefore, certain understanding of life of becoming and the inherent limitation is something which is required, right, for you to seek what? Freedom from what we call, what is samsara. Samsara is cycle of birth and death. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.